On today's show, can Kyrie Irving make All-NBA? What has to happen for him to make All-NBA next year? Let's talk about that and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavs.
Mavericks, NBA champions. Bang! It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show, making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day. Join the Raccoon Squad, be an everyday, or subscribe or follow for free. Just search Locked On Mavericks wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. But the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day and to comment anything below. Let us know in the comment section. Do you believe Kyrie Irving will make another All-NBA team in his career?
Ooh.
Gotta call it now. If you want to support the show, text us. Get text alerts from us on Mavs rumors and more straight to your phone. Subscribe to our subtext. Click the link in the description below. And joining me, as always, my co-host, writer, contributor at Mavs.com. The All-NBA nerd, the One More Thing King. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
Just want to say Nick Angstadt is a liar and that I will never talk for this organization again. We haven't got to talk about James Harden.
I'll talk about him today a little bit.
Do you think it's fun? Like, do you think it's funny? I think it's hilarious, but
it's funny that it's happening to the Sixers, who have had just a slew. I mean, just year after year of the like the Brian Colangelo stuff with the collar and the tweets and the burner accounts and the tanking and the Nerlens Noel bust and the Jahlil Okafor bust and the Ben Simmons was good and then he busted and then, Markelle Fultz couldn't shoot. Like, they just had so many weird things happen to that franchise. And so yeah, it's funny from a distance, but if you try to think about it and think about whose side you're on, it becomes not funny, because then you're like, well, I don't know. I don't know whose side I'm on this anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just funny to see it now. Now I'm like, all right, let's see what this is going to look like at training camp.
Oh, and if
Joel
he does,
Embiid?
and then the new wrinkle that if he doesn't show up to training camp, he can't be a free agent next year.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
I mentioned subtext earlier. We had somebody sign up for subtext specifically just to send us this message.
Oh, ready.
Hey, my name is Wade. I signed up for subtext.
No, bye.
For this reason, not Dwayne. First name Wade.
All right.
He can't help that his parents named him that. You guys mentioned the woman that was screaming during Dirk's Hall of Fame speech at the Hall of Fame the other day.
I met her.
You met her?
I met her. I rewatched it. I didn't know they showed her face in the broadcast, and I rewatched it tonight, and I started dying laughing. I met her, but keep going.
Her name is Pearl, and I don't know her last name, but my grandparents had season tickets in section 308. I guess I'll dox his grandparents. Pearl, for as long as they can remember, and Pearl has always been their usher. She's the sweetest, most energetic, friendly person I ever met at the AAC. Seeing that we had aisle seats on row blah, blah, blah. Pearl and I had a ton of time to talk Mavs life and just become friends. She watched me grow from a little toddler who kicked the back of the heads of the people in front of me during games to a man who brought his wife to games with me. And every time I got there, she greeted me with a big hug and it's so good to see you. You've grown since the last time I saw you, blah, blah, blah. Not to mention, she probably gave me about 500 extra Pluckers gift cards every time that I was there that they came out. So awesome. I wanted to shout out to Wade and shout out to Pearl for being the MFFL that was the loudest in the building during Dirk's Hall of Fame speech.
Okay, so I'm like 95% it's the same person.
Yeah.
When I met her, in one of the concourse, whatever, we were talking Mavs, and she said that she was in her 60s and she'd never left Texas before until now.
Wow.
And she's like, wherever Dirk goes, I'll go.
That's like, amazing.
Let's go. I wrote it down in my notebook. I think I am going to try to publish some of my notes, but I wrote that down in my notebook and I was like, this is so cool.
That's amazing. Shout out to Pearl. You're a true MFFL.
Pearl, I'll take back my joke yesterday. Do you want to come on the pod?
Oh, yeah. We'll welcome Pearl on the... Wait, if you can get Pearl on the pod, we'll welcome her on. All right, on today's show, though, we're gonna look forward and do a what if looking forward. Can Kyrie Irving actually make All NBA? I went through the last 10 years and tried to figure out how many teammates and how many guard teammates made All NBA. The answer may surprise you, and it may not be as difficult as you think if you first hear it. But let's talk about a couple of the things that need to happen for Kyrie. First of all, I think the first hurdle we need to talk about is games played, because there's this new rule in the CBA where you have to play at least 65 games in order to qualify for postseason awards like this for All-NBA, MVP, all that. It's why John Morant's not going to get any of that stuff. Kyrie Irving, the biggest hurdle for him is going to be games played. Last year, he played 60 games. Now, he was suspended for 8 games. If you remember, in Brooklyn, he was suspended for 8 games. So he would have made the threshold probably if he would have played those 8 games. The year before that, he only played 29 games because of the vaccine restrictions. The year before that, he played 54 games, but he did make All-NBA that year. The year before that, 20 games played with a shoulder injury, had surgery. The year before that, 67 games and made All-NBA. So 2 of the last 3 times Kyrie has played at least, 54 games, he's made All-NBA. But that's going to be his biggest hurdle he has to cover in order to even qualify for this award.
Yeah, it's all about availability for him for that first hurdle that you're talking about. But there's all the, off the court stuff that has made him miss time on the court. There's the injuries, also. So it's not just, I think sometimes people think about, the suspensions and different stuff like that, but he hasn't been the healthiest either. Yeah. So for him to, when we do these what if pods, what if, and the Senate, what if Kyrie Irving is an, all NBA player this year, then that means he had a pretty healthy season and he was available on the floor for Dallas for a lot of the year.
And 65 games, it's not that many. You can still miss a good number of games. And so he could have like a minor ankle injury here and there. From what we've seen, at least from some of the Pro-Am stuff, I know there's been some people commenting and subtexting us, talk about Kyrie in some of these Pro-Am runs.
He's looking a little springy.
He's throwing down some dunks, like some alley-oops. He looks good out there. I just did the episode with Josh Lloyd on Locked On Fantasy, doing the Mavericks preview. That'll come out in a couple of days. And he got to the injuries slideshow, like the slide, and he pulls it up and it said none. And I was like, none? There's none. That made me feel really good about the Mavericks going in. So there's nothing right now. He's looking really good. It's looking like he can go in there and play. Casey Smith maybe does some magic, but that's really the one thing I think that's really going to hold him back, if anything, to start.
And let's do a little reminder here. So he's 31 years old.
Yeah.
And so when you start looking at his age stuff, I was looking at players that he's the same age as, or maybe he's a little younger than. Tell me, these are some players that he's the same age as. Tell me if any of these surprise you. Victor Oladipo, TJ McConnell, Maxi Kleba, Harrison Barnes, DeLon Wright, Chris Middleton.
I think everybody except for Chris Middleton, I think of as younger than Kyrie for some reason.
Yeah. So yeah, he's the same age as those guys. And these are a few players that he's younger than. Okay. He's younger than Torrey Craig. He's younger than Seth Curry. He's younger than Vucevic. He's younger than Olynyk. He's younger than Facu Campazzo. And that's just a handful of names there. Obviously, I threw him in there, Crazy Maverick. But it's just, I think sometimes we look at it, or I think some people look at it and say, all right, Kyrie's just like older vet. And you start thinking about, and it's like, he's just 31. It's not like he's 36 right now or 35. Right. He's still just 31 years old.
He's in the prime of his career. He's got incredible shooting ability, which will allow him to stay in the NBA for a little bit longer than maybe some guys do. And he loves the game, and he will really work hard to stay in it. And I think that that's something that we can, look at and say, okay, well, he'll have a little bit of longevity there. It's, some of the other off the court stuff that is more of the question to me than like his actual love of basketball and that.
Yeah, I was going to say that. That stuff's the unpredictable part. And it's like, anytime we ever mention that stuff, we'll get comments from people. It's like, why do you even bring up that stuff? I just came from the Hall of Fame to where any media person that I talked to at the Hall of Fame, it's like, it wasn't like laugh in my face, but it's like, oh, you get to cover Kyrie in Dallas. That's entertaining. That's fun. We'll see how that and some people just openly joking to my face, like, hey, wait till that implodes. And it's because, but and I'm like, all right, cool. It's not my fault, like, but there's also a history there of him missing some games for multiple, different reasons. So you got to at least mention it. You got to throw it out there that it is a possibility that middle of the season he's missing, 6-7 games for something, just because we have seen that a few times.
Absolutely. Coming up, let's talk about what this means for the Mavericks. Can the Mavericks be good enough? Like, will they get there to be good enough for Kyrie to make All-NBA? And we'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about FanDuel. FanDuel has you covered with all the props, odds, and lines all across MLB, NHL, NBA, NFL, and all that. Football season's about to kick off, and FanDuel is giving you a chance to win all season long. Right now, when you bet a Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. Check out all the stuff they have for NFL. The NBA Clutch Player of the Year, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, plus 1,000. Lillard, plus 1,200. Luka, plus 1,400. He's tied with Jokic and De'Aaron Fox and Embiid. To be the clutch player of the year. Can you imagine if Luka is the clutch player of the year, the Mavericks probably won 50 games because they'll flip that many from last year. Like, that's all.
I need to know Kyrie's odds on that one.
Kyrie Irving plus 2,300. He's tied with Booker, Anthony Edwards, Mikal Bridges, and that's it. So there's his clutch odds. So go check it out. Again, FanDuel, go ahead and check out FanDuel.com/lockedon to start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel.com/lockedon.
My first shot, my first make.
Thanks everybody for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of this show, part of the Raccoon Squad, and MFFL, and Everydayer, all of that. All right, Isaac Harris, let's get into what will this mean for what will the Mavericks have to do in order for Kyrie? Will they be good enough to get it? Because I think individually as a player, the only thing holding Kyrie back would be games played. Like he'll have the numbers. He'll have just the team, I think, has to be good enough in order for him to be considered in that group there, because he had the numbers last year, was not considered at all because of the way the Mavericks season ended at the end.
Yeah, because you got to factor in. I mean, Luka's going to make All-NBA again. Okay, whether it's first team, second team, one of those two. Like, he's going to put up the numbers. It's still his team. He's the alpha. All right. So for you to get two players on an All-NBA team, especially, let's say two players on an NBA team, I put like the Mavs have to finish top 4 in the West.
Okay.
I just don't see a world in which there's so many guards out there. Like, that's the thing you got to say. There's so many guards in the league, and there's only 6 spots, right? So there's only 6 All-NBA guard spots, and I mean we could stay here and go for the next 5 minutes listing out, probably 15.
It won't take 5. It won't take 5 minutes. You ready? Here's Kyrie's competition.
It's not gonna take 5 minutes.
It won't. It won't take 5-15 minutes. It won't take that long.
Okay, there's a lot of people.
Here's the ones that made it recently: Luka, SGA, Curry, Mitchell, Lillard, Fox, Booker, Trae Young.
Okay.
Here's the guards that haven't made it yet: Darius Garland, Fred VanVleet, Anthony Edwards, Jalen Brunson, Zach LaVine, ? Here's the ones that I think are just out of it: Ja Morant, because of games played, just gone. He's missed 25 games. That's it. He's out.
Yeah.
Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook, Bradley Beal, ? They're not getting 3, right? I mean, that'd have to be really. The other one that's sneaky is now James Harden. He, because of this whole thing with the Sixers, but also he hasn't made an All-NBA team since 2020. Like, I think his time may have been past.
Yeah.
That's that's Kyrie's competition. It's the 6 guys that made it last year, the 2 guys that made it the year before, in Booker and Trae Young, and then those 4 names that I mentioned: Garland, VanVleet, Edwards, Brunson, that haven't made it yet. Like, it's not a long list.
It's not a long list, but I mean, those are some tough. I mean, you're not hoping for injuries, but like, I think Anthony Edwards is going to be right there with all that stuff.
I mean, for sure.
Jalen Brunson, if he continues playing like he is, so it's just not it's not like some of the forward stuff, center stuff. It feels like it could go either way, and and it also depends on how they're classifying some guys. Like,
right?
Are they going to classify Jimmy Butler as a guard this year? Who and all that. So that's the type of stuff that I don't know. But because this is something I looked at too. Like, all right, if they're going to get 2 players in the All NBA, then that means both of them have to, have some incredible seasons as far as scoring. They're probably going to be one of the top, like more top half rosters, or top half scoring, heavy, top heavy in that. So I started looking at the Mavericks, the past, I was like, all right, when was the last time the Mavericks have had 2 scores all year long that scored at least 24 points a game? 2 scores. Okay. It's definitely like the closest it's gotten with Luka's career. Then are you confused?
No, I'm trying to think. My first instinct was like Dirk and Michael Finley. That's like my first.
That was close. Finley scored around 21. But it's definitely going to be this way for, Luka's career the first time, because, KP averaged right around 20. Porzingis never averaged over 20 points a game in his time in Dallas. You keep on going back. You're looking at like Dirk and Finley. You have to go all the way back to 1990, 94, 95.
Aguirre and Blackman.
No.
Damn.
That was a little further back than that. Jamal Mashburn and Jim Jackson.
Oh, the Jays. Mashburn
averaged 24. Jim Jackson averaged 25. So I say that to say, if Kyrie Irving is an All-NBA player this year, then that means the Mavericks finished top 4, top 5 in the West. That means both him and Luka Doncic are 2 of the best scoring guys in the league, and it's going to be the best scoring duo in the past 30 years for the Dallas Mavericks.
Which we've already agreed that this is the 2 most talented players that have ever played together on the Mavericks, right?
Ever?
I mean, you can go back to Dirk and Nash, but Dirk and Nash, they were not Dirk and Nash when they were both playing at the same time with the Mavs. Like, they still had a level up to go. I mean, Luka and Kyrie, it's definitely the best guard duo, but you can make a case.
Dirk and Finley were fun.
All right, so I went back. I'll preview this. I'm going to go through some of the teammates, but I went back through 10 years. The number of teammates that have won All-NBA in the last 10 years together, 21 times. So it almost happens twice. It almost happens twice a season that teammates will make All-NBA together. Every team won at least 47 games. The team that won 47 games was the Timberwolves back in 2016-17. They were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th in the West. They won 47 games. There was 4 teams that won between 47 and 49 games. And so this is when I started to look at it and say, oh, there is precedent. If the Mavericks make it back, there will be such a narrative behind them of, oh, what a turnaround. And Luka and Kyrie are so good. And look at they're right in the mix with everybody. If they get to 47 wins or something like that, then I don't know. I think they'll have a shot at it outside of that. I don't think they need to be this 50, 55 win team where a lot of the teams are. We'll go through them. But I think they can get to that mark. And their over-under is 44.5. Josh Lloyd predicted 47 wins. He was a little bit higher than me.
Whoa.
If he gets his 47 wins and he's right, then the Mavericks are right. There's precedent for them to both make All-NBA if that's the case.
Yeah, and let me say this because we're talking about wins. I think if Kyrie Irving is All-NBA next season, that means they're one of the best duos in the league. That means he makes an All-Star team again.
Yep.
It doesn't mean, and you could disagree and some, whatever. I don't think it doesn't mean that they make a long playoff run.
Well, I don't think that it doesn't matter because All-NBA is just regular season award. So
no. I know that. I meant like I think you could naturally say, dude, if Kyrie is an All-NBA player, then they're that good.
Oh yeah,
and that means they're top 4, top 5. Then that means they're locked in to make a playoff run. And I actually don't think that is locked in because I think there's still enough questions on the roster that they could both be All-NBA. They could both be the highest scoring duo in the league and still get put out in the second round. And anyway.
Coming up, let's talk about some of the teammates. Let's talk about what the Mavericks have to do with Luka and Kyrie to both make All-NBA because that's what we think would happen. Let's talk about that and ask some other questions coming up.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
My first shot, my first make.
Thanks everybody for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs. All right, Isaac Harris. Let's talk about the Mavericks and Luka and Kyrie potentially both making All-NBA. Because if we think if Kyrie makes it, then Luka probably has already made it because he's made it first team each of the last 4 years. It's unprecedented. There's only been 4 teams in the last 10 years where 2 guards have made it. You ready to hear when I started to go through this, I was like, oh, it's impossible.
Yeah, let's do this.
The Suns in 21-22, they won 64 games. That's Booker and Chris Paul, 64 win team. The Rockets in 2019-20, the Harden and Westbrook. It's a shortened year. They won 44 games, but it's a 61 win pace. So they would have been a 60 win team. 2015-16, Steph and Clay, 73-9. Year before that, 2014-15, the Warriors, Steph and Clay, 67 win team. And that's the only guard duos that have made All-NBA the last 10 years. And I looked through that list and I was like, oh God, there's no shot. Because I don't see them getting to 60 wins. I mean, so many things would have to happen right for this team. And the NBA is just so spread out right now that 60-win teams are hard to get, especially last year. Like the number one team in the West last year won 53 games.
Yeah, that's wild. That's wild that's the only guard duos.
The only ones in the last 10 years, those 4.
So you got to be a 60-win team to get 2 guards in the All-NBA.
But I don't think that Luka and Kyrie work. Like Luka can be looked at. He can also be on forward. Like they could put him like Tatum as a forward. They've put Kawhi as a forward. LeBron's a forward on the All-NBA. Couple of teams that have won like 48 or so games last year. Fox and Sabonis, they won 48 games. Like you could see that. You can make that case. Kawhi and Paul George on a 47 win team for the Clippers. You had the OKC with Russ and Paul George. That one, you're like, oh, I could see Luka and Kyrie being like a Russ and Paul George. They were 6th in the West that year. They won 49 games. OKC with Russ and Paul George again. The year before that, they won 48 games. The Minnesota Timberwolves one I mentioned with Jimmy and Kat. And then the only other one was... No, that was it. That was the only 41. They've all been very recently. Like within the last 5 years, they've had some 40-win teams that have had 2 All-NBA teammates.
Yeah, for some reason I just started thinking about your list a while ago of the competition he has for other guards. How did you mark off because that guys like Jamal Murray, Tyrese Halliburton, Cade Cunningham.
Those are good ones.
Like those are all that's more competition that there's worlds I could see all them.
I can't see Cade Cunningham making all, but Jamal Murray's a good one. Tyrese Halliburton's a good one too.
I'm a big believer. Cade Cunningham, big summer. I was trying to look up highest scoring duos in NBA history and some different seasons and times in which it worked out great and times that it didn't really work out for playoff success. And so here's 2 best case and worst case.
Oh boy.
You ready for this? I don't think you're ready.
Bradley Beal's got to be on this list, right?
No, it was just me just looking at duos in the league, that high scoring duos. And
right.
I'm all right, are there any similarities? Could they make the, and I took out Kobe and Shaq because, they're not a big, Luka or Kyrie's not. Okay. This is going to sound so blasphemy here. Could they be the Gen Z Elgin Baylor, Jerry West?
Oh, and just make it to the finals every year and lose except for one time, and then Jerry West is Luka and drives himself insane and
I know I'd say that because you look at some of those teams in the 60s, that 64-65 season, Jerry West averaged 31 a game, Elgin Baylor 27 a game. You could go to Miami and look at the 2010-2011 team. I don't know if people know that, but they lost in the finals to the Mavericks that year.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, you should look it up.
Looking back, I can't believe that team, with LeBron, Wade, and Bosh.
Yeah,
that's
3 Hall
wild.
of Famers. It's pretty insane. JJ Barea locked him up.
Wow.
You look at that team, and because that you could kind of see the similarity of LeBron and Wade, Luka, Kyrie, a little bit.
Who's the Bosh? Grant Williams, the Bosh.
Yeah, we don't really have the Bosh. But here's one that was fascinating to me. Okay. I mean, fascinating. They didn't get out of the first round, but they made the playoffs. They won 45 games. I'm like, I hope this isn't what the Mavericks are. The 2006-2007 Nuggets. Carmelo averaged. Carmelo averaged
Melo and
20,
Iverson, right?
Yeah. Melo averaged 29. Iverson averaged 25. Get this. Melo was the young superstar. Melo was 22. Iverson was 31, the same age as Kyrie.
How many games did they win, did you say?
45.
Yeah, this is what they
And they lost in round 1. It's like
Luka's so much better than Carmelo. I love Carmelo. I've got his jersey in my closet, but he's so much better.
Yeah, they're not perfect, comparison of like type of players, but just that concept of like young superstar who led a team in scoring, 31-year-old scoring guard, and 45 game. They just couldn't put it together in the playoffs.
Can I pose this question? I've wanted to do this the whole pod, and I've waited till just the Raccoon Squad is still here.
Oh.
Is there a scenario where Kyrie makes it and Luka doesn't? Like,
no.
Let's say not even because Luka's bad. Let's say he misses up too many games, and like Kyrie has to carry him for a little while.
No.
There's none scenario?
No. Have you not seen the Instagram photos? He's looking great.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean he can't twist an ankle. Have you seen all the Luka boo-boos he's been dealing with in these FIBA prep games?
Boo-boos.
Oh, you've missed my Slovenia post games. I've been calling them Luka boo-boos because they're not real injuries. They're just kind of like these injury scares.
Okay, let me take one last angle to this.
You're just going to completely dismiss my can Kyrie make it, Luka not?
Yeah, because I don't think there's a world in which that happens.
Not at all?
Luka's made first team All-NBA four times.
Well, what if he plays
and
60?
now we're going to say he's not going to make it at all?
What if he plays 64 games?
I mean, yeah, I guess he can't make it then, but
he obviously can't make it.
Yeah, I mean,
he would have qualified every year, by the way. Look, we need to point that out. He 66 last year, 65 the year before, 66 in a shortened year, 61 in a shortened year, and then 72 his rookie. He would have qualified every year. So I'm not, I'm being facetious, but yeah.
I mean, if this is the best shape he ever shows up in, and like predicting that he's going to miss the most games he's ever missed, that.
I mean, a freak injury could happen. He could break a finger. I don't know.
Let me take it from this angle real quick.
Okay.
If Kyrie Irving makes All-NBA, two things here at the very end. It means his trade value is at the highest it's been in a long time.
So you're not talking about a Rui Hachimura and D'Angelo Russell package. You're hoping for something
Can people
better.
stop talking about that? Like,
I can't, because when I brought it up with Brian Kamenetsky on Locked On Lakers, he freaked out and he didn't realize that their salaries.
But the Mavericks would never take D'Lo back. This is guard Christian Wood. I'm just saying. They just tried. If they ever did a deal with the Lakers, it would have to be Reeves, Rui, Vanderbilt, and all that. But I don't
big Reeves guy.
More than D'Angelo Russell.
I almost got Isaac to say something good about Austin Reeves.
He looks like the Penguin from Gotham. So that's the thing. If he makes All-NBA, then that means his trade value is at the highest it's ever been. But also, if he makes All-NBA, and we're assuming good health for Luka and all that stuff, then that means the Mavericks also got a full season look at what peak duo,
it's good,
how they work.
It's good.
So, like, you can make a decision. If it's All-NBA season for Kyrie, then next summer, you have a full season under your belt of seeing what the duo looks like when they're both healthy. They both play incredible seasons and all that. And also, Kyrie Irving's trade value is at the highest it's ever been. So if you're like, man, I just don't know, what the duo looks like and all this stuff, or long-term, then Kyrie making All-NBA puts you in a really good spot next summer as a franchise.
It's a good point. I don't know if Kyrie's trade value means a lot in the NBA, but the Nets did get a first and 2 role players out of him. So,
I mean, this dude, after all the stuff that we've talked about, he's still like the Mavericks still lined up to go get him. And
so did
like,
the Suns and the Lakers and, several other teams.
Yeah, you're telling me if he comes out and he's throwing down dunks and has an All-NBA season for the Mavericks, that he won't have more trade value? Yeah.
Interesting. Let us know. You got anything else on this?
No, I don't.
Let us know in the comment section. Do you believe that Kyrie Irving could make All-NBA? ever in his career for the rest of his career? Let us know.
My first shot, my first make.
Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
You out.
Boom.